defy the laws of nature and go beyond. Like, I can survive without food. I'm gonna live on air and sunlight. What? I mean, no. So let's talk a little bit about these two books. Arnold Ehret, one of the pioneers in the raw food movement, really. Let's get into it. Right, so Arnold Ehret, one of the pioneers of the raw food movement. I think this book, Rational Fasting, looks like it was written back in 1926. Okay, so we're in the 20s, right? Last century. Arnold Ehret, he has like an epic mustache going on. He looks cool, I think. I read these books back when I first started my raw food journey, back in 2011. I quickly heard about Arnold Ehret, right? I mean, who hasn't heard about him? If you haven't heard about him, tell me in the comments if you heard about Arnold Ehret or not. So I thought, I want to check it out. I want to read those books, and I did, and it was super inspiring. I was inspired, and at the time I had only positive things to say about Arnold Ehret. Now, as I've learned more and as my diet and life has evolved, I've come to have a little bit of a different view on it. So this is not actually a book review. I'm not reviewing the books. I'm just generally just discussing Arnold Ehret and his books. So first of all, there's this book, Professor Arnold Ehret's Rational Fasting for Physical, Mental and Spiritual Rejuvenation. Okay, so he's talking about, I mean, it's been a while since I read these, so I'm not completely like remembering everything he talked about here, but essentially he's talking about fasting. He's talking about longevity, why to fast, when to fast, how long to fast, all that stuff. I'm gonna just say it like it is right now. I'm on the fence when it comes to whether or not fasting is beneficial. The way I see it right now, I don't believe at all in the idea that we should be regularly fasting, right? Like once a week or for like 20 hours every 24 hours, like intermittent fasting, or that like abstaining from food should be any kind of regular thing in our lives. I personally see that as kind of absurd, like the borderline eating disorder, really, because we are eating. It's just, eating is the most normal and natural thing in life. I mean, we should eat. I mean, it's just, that's just normal. Just like we should sleep and do things and all that stuff. So I don't believe in regular fasting, but the idea of a therapeutic fast, going on a 2 or 3 week water fast once in your life, or maybe a couple of times if you're very sick, or if you really need to heal something that doesn't really clear up by just living healthfully, then maybe. That's what I'm on the fence about. Okay, I haven't decided what I think about it yet, but if anything, I'm sort of thinking I would probably not do it. I would rather recommend someone just live a healthy life, get fit, eat healthy, avoid unhealthy habits for the most part, and then over time, your body will get healthier. So anyway, I'm not a big believer in the fasting thing. But I am intrigued by it, and I'm certainly respecting it. I'm not sort of debunking it or anything like that. So anyway, Arnold Ehret talks about that, and then so that's his fasting, that's his sort of recovery, regeneration kind of ideas. And then this book is like it's called Mucusless Diet Healing System, and that's what he's famous for. And that's more of his sort of everyday program, right? Like, this is a fasting book, this is his program, this is what he thinks we should do on a regular basis. And he talks about the mucusless diet. Essentially, when you're eating something that's irritating to your mucous membranes, you create mucus. Okay, Arnold Ehret's view on mucus, though, I mean, it's back in the 20s. Like, science hasn't really evolved to the point where it is today. So there's a lot of sort of misunderstandings in this book, and he didn't really understand basic physiology very well, but he had some sort of philosophies, right? He had some ideas that were intriguing, and he had a grain of truth in some of his ideas, and some of his things were actually, of course, completely true as well. But generally speaking, this idea of mucus, mucus is not something that stays in the body. It's not like you have a buildup of mucus and you have to eliminate the mucus like he sort of indicates. Mucus is a response to something that you're doing or eating, right? So there's no mucus in the body initially, or if you imagine that there's no mucus and then you eat something like onions or garlic or something like that, or some kind of toxic food, it goes into your system, and now your throat and now your digestive system is going to start creating mucus to protect itself against that foreign element and eliminate it. Just like, with your eyes, they will start, you'll start crying when you're cutting onion. These irritants stimulate a defense system in the body, and that's where mucus come in. Whereas Arnold Ehret sort of thought that mucus was the enemy and that we had to eliminate mucus. Anyways, that's why he's calling it the mucusless diet healing system. But in essence, though, what he's saying is eat fruit. Eat a fruit diet. Man is frugivorous. Man should be eating plants. Man should be eating fruits, succulent plants. And I totally agree. We are frugivores, for sure. I mean, that's our ideal diet right there. There's some recipes in here, but then he's always getting back to talking about the elimination, right? Eliminate the mucus, and also with this fasting book, it's all about cleansing. And I believe personally, and let me know in the comments what you think about this, what your personal view is, but my view currently is that this sort of obsession with elimination, this obsession with healing and cleansing is not healthy, right? Because the body actually cleans itself. If it didn't, I mean, how would you be able to live? I mean, it's a constant process of cleansing going on internally, externally. Our body is really good at taking care of itself as long as we give it what it needs and avoid damaging it and putting unhealthy substances into it, etc. So the idea that we need to proactively cleanse and take specific things and herbs to sort of clean out the body and do all these kind of radical procedures and like fasting, it's not something I recommend. I'd rather see people just live healthfully, long term, get fit and healthy, and yeah, that's it really. Get fit and healthy, live healthful lives. And I personally think that's enough for most people. Could a fast benefit some people in a very sick situation? Maybe. And of course, if you're sick, having a flu or something, fasting for a day or two because you're not feeling up for eating, that's totally natural, and we should definitely do that. But another thing I want to talk about Arnold Ehret, I'm sort of bashing him, I guess, a little bit here. Because most of the time when I see or hear about Arnold Ehret, I'm a little bit like, oh, Arnold. He has some kind of stupid ideas, I think. Because, for example, one of the things that I always find funny is that he is talking about fasting, right? And he's talking about his own experiences fasting. And he says, okay, I'm going so many days without any food, I'm fasting. And I walked up a mountain, and I was not fatigued, and etc. So he's sort of trying to prove that he doesn't need food. He can do anything, and he's super strong even though he's not eating. And on one side, that's the positive side of it, I guess. He's showing that, hey, people, guys, everyone out there, you are not aware of what your body is capable of, right? He's saying to them, you think you're so dependent on food, whereas in reality, you can survive without food for a period, and you can still be strong. And he's also wanting to prove that fruit, which is looked upon as from most people as a sort of, I don't know, not like a power food, it's more like a little fresh treat, He wants to prove to people that, hey, fruit is power food. And not only is fruit power food, but even if you don't eat, you'll still be powerful for a little while. And most importantly, he's trying to say, hey, the meat and the dairy and the eggs and all that sort of heavy food that people tend to, especially back in the day, tend to look upon as critical for being a healthy, strong human being. You know, you have to have your meat, you got to get your protein. He proved them wrong, essentially. He said, hey, I can still climb a mountain without having eaten for like 2 weeks or something like that. You know, go figure. But the other side of that coin is that if you're fasting for health, if you're fasting for regeneration and cleansing, you're just actually resting. That's what you're doing. When you're not eating, you're resting your digestive system. So if you're looking for rest in order to heal, it doesn't make sense to run up a mountain, because you might as well have just eaten and relax. That would probably be healthier. So if you're running up and down mountains, and like he did, to prove that you're strong while you're fasting, you're sort of defeating the purpose of fasting to a certain degree, at least theoretically. So I kind of found that funny, and when I hear him talking about that, I see a pattern, and I see this in a lot of people out there in the raw vegan movement and elsewhere. And this is this idea that we should be superhuman. You know what I mean? Like we should defy the laws of nature and go beyond. Like I can survive without food. I'm gonna live on air and sunlight. What? I mean, no. In a sense, you are living on air and sunlight, but you're doing it in the form of mangoes. That's air and sunlight and earth all mixed together, right? I mean, energy from the sun going into the tree and creating fruit. We're not designed. We're not supposed to take energy directly from the sun like the leaves of the plants are doing. It just, why do we have a stomach then? I mean, why do we have a mouth and an anus if we're not supposed to? You know, that's a whole other discussion, that breatharian nonsense. But yeah, so that's what I see sometimes in the Arnold Ehret books and a lot of people out there, that there's this obsession with doing things that are not normal or natural or even healthy, in my opinion, in order to prove to yourself or someone else that you're more than human somehow, that you're transforming your body into a super I don't know what it is, I don't know, but you know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. So anyway, that's a bit of a rant, I guess, on fasting and this idea that we should be doing all these crazy protocols to you know, health is very simple, and we will all die one day, okay, physically speaking, and our body will deteriorate and we will age, and there's no such thing as becoming younger, but there is such a thing as staying healthy, getting healthy, living a long, healthy, functional, fit life, and you get that from regular healthy practices. Getting enough sleep, eating a fruit-based diet, eating healthy, getting all the nutrients you need, avoiding toxins and poisons and that sort of thing, not stressing out too much, getting regular exercise, getting fit as is a good idea, I think. You know, I actually think that that's better than sort of sitting around meditating all day and not eating. Like I'm not bashing meditation, but it's just, I mean, who wants to just sit around and not eat all day? I mean, let's get eating and get moving and get stuff done and be productive and play and experience life at its fullest, rather than being obsessed with these sort of borderline supernatural ideas, certainly non-scientific to a large extent. I'm sorry if this offends you. I'm not intending to offend anyone. I tend to respect everyone's view, right? Like, if you have an experience and you believe in it and you're passionate about it and you think it's true, it's true. It's good for you. But for me, this is my current view. And Arnold Ehret, kind of a cool guy, kind of some ideas that I'm not really, you know, agreeing with. But then on the other hand, if you are doing a fast, yeah, read Rational Fasting. It seems like a good book to read. I mean, if you are into fasting. And as you can see, I do have him here on the shelf next to Herbert Shelton, next to the 8-10-10 diet by Doug Graham, next to some other cool books. So he's on the shelf, right? That's more than I can say about David Wolfe, which is not on the shelf, right? Yeah, I have some David Wolfe books, but I'm getting rid of. I'm selling them or giving them away because, yeah. So not to bash David Wolfe actually, because he was actually one of the guys that first inspired me to do the raw food diet. But then I sort of found his ideas to be kind of not something I resonated with. So Arnold Ehret is still on the shelf, right? That says something. I do appreciate him. I think he's a pioneer. I think he's got some cool ideas. But I also think he was a little bit confused, not really understanding basic human physiology very well. It's a fly on the camera. And having some of those unhealthy, I think, ideas about going beyond what human means, right? And I don't think that's a healthy thing. I think we should embrace the human animal, this body, get it fit, get it healthy, have healthful practices, balance, and that's the best way forward. If you're interested in getting fit, you should check out my running channel. I'll put a link to it here. And there's some links in the description to my, my website where I offer coaching. We have some articles there. We have a Patreon page. Thanks to all the Patreon supporters, by the way. You mean a lot to me and Mads. If you want to get some exclusive content, you can join us on Patreon. We also have a coaching level there where you get monthly coaching if you're interested in that. Share in the comments what you think about Arnold Ehret. Have you read his books? Are you pro Arnold Ehret, against Arnold Ehret, or are you just like neutral like I am, or somewhat neutral? Let me know about it. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye.